Welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond, and I am joined by former Braves catcher and All-Star Johnny Estrada. So good to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
Happy to be here. We're here at Game On Baseball in Noonan, Georgia. Johnny, you run the show over here. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
It's a baseball, softball training academy. We take kids from about ages 8 to 18, do lessons, rent cages. We have teams come in and rent space to practice when the weather's not good. So everything we need to breed good baseball and softball players, basically.
Yeah, it's a really cool environment. You know, we've been walking around. Obviously, there's cages right here. There's a workout center over there. But when you walk in, there's memorabilia all through the lobby. It makes me feel at home as a baseball fan. Tony Gwynn signed jerseys and things like that. You know, you also played for the Braves, as I just mentioned. You know, what are some of your favorite memories as a Brave?
As a Brave, probably first of all being called up to the big leagues by the end of that. I mean, I grew up watching the Braves on TBS. You know, a lot of nights after school, coming home and watching baseball with my dad. The Braves were the only team on TV a lot of nights. They weren't very good back then, but we still watched them every day. So being able to play for the Atlanta Braves was something special. And then, of course, my 2004 year when I made the All-Star team, did a lot of good stuff.
You know, I actually watched that All-Star game last night. I told you that earlier. And I see you stand next to some legends. You know, Randy Johnson was in that, Barry Bonds. A lot of names that we all know and cherish. You know, that's got to be a cool experience.
You say Randy Johnson. I remember, you know, it was my first All-Star game. It was Miguel Cabrera's first All-Star game. He was young. You know, I was older than him, but we were both still young. He was number 24. I was number 23. So right next to him was Barry. And me and him were just sitting in front of our lockers, like not wanting to move because we were just like young and all these other superstars around us. And Randy Johnson was sitting across the clubhouse, and he walks over and pulls up a chair in front of us, and he like, "You guys look like you're over here like you've seen a ghost." He's like, "I just want to come introduce myself to you and, you know, break the ice, man. Congratulations." And like, I'll always remember that because we were just sitting there like, what are we supposed to do? Like, people were high-fiving each other, getting stuff signed, and like, I didn't want to move. But Randy coming over there and doing that, like, for me and Miggy, he'll remember it too, probably, because, you know, he didn't have to do that. He could just see that we were sitting there nervous.
Yeah, and to see him go in Hall of Fame a few years ago alongside others, Miggy probably not too far away from being inducted himself.
Yeah.
It's got to be a cool experience to look back on.
Yeah, I can remember that night he threw the perfect game against us, man, and he was electric. Major League All-Star hitters coming back to the dugout just depleted. Like, that's how good he was that night.
I think that was 2004, I want to say.
4, yep.
2004. Well, that was also your All-Star year, and I believe that was the end of the 14 straight division titles. So you're a part of that team. You know, to cap that off, to me, that's one of the greatest accomplishments in sports as an organization. To have 14 straight division titles. I think that gets looked over a good bit.
Yeah.
You know, what's it like to be a part of that under Bobby Cox, not to mention?
Like, the streak started when I was a freshman in high school. So for me to be part of the last 3, like I said, you know, wearing Braves jerseys as a kid, you know, and watching Andrew Jones and Chipper Jones and John Smoltz and them guys, and then I'm playing with them. Like, my whole career, I felt like was a dream, really. You know, like, I'm in real life now. But back then, I feel like it was so special. It was just like, you know, I can't explain it in words, but to be able to live your dream, you know, a lot of people don't get to do that. They just keep chasing.
And you did that. You're pretty good, too, you know, behind the plate, catching. You're a pretty good catcher. Let me ask you this. You know, the Braves are pretty stacked at catching right now, all the way through the minors. Shea Langoliers, William Contreras, Travis d'Arnaud obviously taking the mantle this year. Alex Jackson's another guy. You know, what do you think are, you know, some things? Have you noticed anything about those guys that fans should realize?
d'Arnaud put together a heck of a season last year, man. It's tough to catch every day and still have the offensive production just because it's a grind. So any offensive catcher, you know, I have a different appreciation for it because, man, it's just, you know, especially late in the season, your legs become jello. It's hot, especially here in Atlanta. But to be able to still stay focused and strong and get them hits. So it's always catch first with me, though, as a coach. Maybe it wasn't always that way as a player, but now that I coach kids, you know, you got to teach them to catch first and not take their offense out to their defense because, you know, there would be no 14 straight if we didn't have some good catchers that, you know, took it serious and were able to catch all them wins every night.
Yeah, you could say that a lot of those, the big three pitchers, Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, we always remember them. They're Hall of Famers, but they also were throwing to some pretty good catchers too. I think we forget that. It's a good point. Catching is an art, right? How important did you take? Obviously, you just mentioned your defensive ability. How important was that to you, just day in, day out?
I always knew that my catching was going to get me to the big leagues if I was able to make it. And I was right. Like the coaches, they said, your defense is going to get you there, but your hitting is going to keep you there. So I always, would try to take that to heart and always try to clean up my defense. And, a catcher is known as the backstop. A backstop never misses. If you go watch a youth baseball game nowadays, you're going to see a whole bunch of balls to the backstop. So your job as a catcher to keep that from happening. Because if you go watch a major league game and that's happening, it's ugly. Like, it doesn't look good. It shouldn't happen. So I'd like to see more catchers take more pride in their defense.
For sure.
But it's hard because everybody, now it's an offense and people want to have them offensive stats. So it's a grimy position for sure.
Well, pitching and catching has always sort of been the fastest way to the big leagues, right? For a defensive catcher and for a decent pitcher with a decent arm, it's always been the fastest way. How old were you when you were called up?
I was 24 the first time.
Yeah, so pretty young. For a young guy, I just mentioned William Contreras, Shane Langoliers. What do you want to see out of them in their early years? Are you more focused on? I assume you're more focused on defense than you are offense, right?
Yeah, catching W's.
Yeah.
That's really what it's their number one job nowadays with all the, analyzation and scouting reports, and you really got to do your homework. So your first job is just get, I used to say 7 innings out of my guy, but nowadays it's 5, 6 if you're lucky. So that's your first job. I would say to focus on that, focus on calling a game. That's something that you have to keep getting better at, because it's it's just not easy. All the pitchers are different. So that's why I said when I see a catcher that has offensive production and I know he's doing all that other stuff, it's special. And that's the league as a whole, there's not a lot of great catching going on.
True.
Some teams have a good catcher, can't hit. Some teams have a guy that can hit, not real good catching. So we're lucky to have that Darno dude and some guys coming up behind him.
Well, is there any catcher that, other than Travis Darno, Yadier Molina stands out, JT Realmuto these days? Is there any catcher that, in recent memory, has just really stood out to you?
Yadier Molina, man, he's a freak. He's been good for a long time, and then he finally figured out how to hit. So he's, some of us never thought he would hit, and all of a sudden he was a 300 hitter for a lot of years. So that guy, man, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer in my eyes, for sure.
For sure. Well, let's talk about some hitting. That's what we got the bat out for. I guess the first question I better ask, you coach kids baseball, all ages. What's the most common mistake, mostly, that you see, or common thing that you would change in a kid's swing early on?
Man, the biggest thing I see with kids is they don't know how to grip the bat properly. It's like you can't, make a cake without some of the ingredients, and that's what I try to tell them. Most kids, they have trouble lining up their small knuckles. They want to grab the bat like this, and then you see the elbow come up, and we all see Freddie Freeman hitting like this, but you know how hard that is? Like you don't teach that, because it's unbelievably hard to go from that position right there. So gripping the bat with your fingers, not deep in your palm, that's the first thing. And then kids want to do the open stance. They hands low. They see on TV. But I like to just see a basic toes even, a little bit wider than shoulders, hands up high, and keeping it simple. Because the first thing I tell kids when I work with them, I ask them, has anybody ever told you how hard baseball is? And you'd be amazed how many kids say no. Like, I got 10, 11-year-old kids that ain't never been told how hard baseball is. So I try not to ever forget how hard the game is, and I try to just keep it simple. Because, man, they're making it more complicated now with all the analyzation. Yeah. So if you got, a complicated approach, and you could just get caught up in your head. I just see ball, hit ball. That was my approach, and I tried to just have a short swing. I switch hit, so it was hard for me to get equal amount of reps to stay sharp. So My right-handed swing struggled more than my left because obviously you face more right-handed pitchers.
Yeah, switch hitting's tough. You got to think it's a whole different mindset. Did you have a different swing on one side of the plate than the other?
Yeah,
completely.
Yeah, my swing was shorter, left-handed. It was a little more long, right-handed. But I think because this is my dominant hand, and you know, it's my bottom hand, so it was an easier transition when I started switch hitting.
So these days, you know, it seems to me like in today's baseball, unless you hit a home run, you fail, right? Mm-hmm. Would you prefer to see it? You know, you got Tony Gwynn's jersey hanging up in the lobby. You know, guy that just see ball, hit ball, base hits, and was probably the best pure hitter in recent memory.
Yeah.
You know, is that what you want to see out of most players? Because even the little guys these days are swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
Ender Inciarte comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you want to see a different approach out of those guys?
Yeah, man. I would just like to see more kids, you know, take pride in all their at bats. I think there's a lot of wasted at bats at all levels of baseball right now, and that's what Tony Gwynn didn't do. He didn't waste at bats. He was going to give you a tough at bat every time, and he was taking pride in just wearing out that 5.5 hole and taking them singles. So that's, you know, striking out is becoming okay, and as a coach, I don't like it. Like, to me, but striking out is the worst thing you could do in baseball. Mm-hmm. But now, you know, kids are thinking it's okay as long as they hit some homers. And as a pitcher, I want to hear that. Like, oh yeah, okay, you're trying to go deep. I got you. As opposed to the dude that's going to choke up with 2 strikes and try to put the ball in play.
Drop a bunt every now and again.
Yeah.
You know, I interviewed Otis Nixon a while ago, a couple of years ago, and it was right around the Braves' first postseason run. He said that they needed to play more small ball. They have not taken his advice here lately. It's been a lot of strikeouts, a lot of homers. Marcell Ozuna is a perfect example. I would even say Travis d'Arnaud, any of the big offensive guys for the Braves. You know, their approach is obviously long ball. They have their share of base hits too, but a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah.
They are heavy at strikeouts.
I don't get it, but somebody has told me that it's the analytics that they're just, you know, it works, and that's what they believe. And you know, I would love to see more bunting, hitting, running, and stealing, because that's real baseball, and that's the kind of baseball we try to teach kids. But if you go out to a youth tournament, you're going to see kids swinging some hot bats, you know, on some small fields, and the parents want to see little Billy go deep. So little Billy's trying to go deep. But, you know, see on that wall over there, it says fly balls are outs, because we don't teach elevating. We teach hard line drives or hard on the ground. But you see how many holes I got in my nets? They still hit fly balls in here.
Well, let me ask you this. If a kid wants to improve on hitting a fly ball, right, if he's looking to keep level swing and drive the ball hard, what is the easiest way, I guess, to adjust to that?
I just think you got to stay short to the ball, through it, try to finish high. To me, home runs are accidents. That's what I was taught. You don't try to hit home runs. There's one kid in my whole career that I played with a lot of good hitters. Only one ever told me that he practiced hitting home runs, and that was Prince Fielder. So if you look like Prince Fielder and you can hit like Prince Fielder, you can try to hit home runs. But that don't work for most kids. But he was the only teammate I ever had that said his dad taught him to hit home runs, you got to practice hitting home runs.
For some reason, I believe Cecil.
So you know what I did? I had to get out of his batting practice group when I was with the Brewers. Because I'm like, I can't be over here trying to hit homers with you. Like, you can put me in a swamp.
What a funny story.
Yeah.
I think we're going to end on that. I think that's a good way to wrap it up. Johnny, I can't thank you enough.
My
Tell
pleasure.
people how they can find you.
We're on Facebook at Game On Noonan, and then Instagram Game On Pro. Check us out. We're open 7 days a week. We do lessons and cage rental, and try to have fun up in here teaching baseball.
Those links will be in the description, so make sure you check those out, guys. We're going to wrap it up here at Game On in Noonan, Georgia. Really appreciate it. While you're here, go ahead and like this video. Tell your friends about it. Subscribe. You know what to do. Do that, and I'll catch you later.